The St. Louis World's Fair of 1904 was a grand spectacle, a sprawling wonderland of new inventions, dazzling lights, and people from every corner of the globe. The fairgrounds hummed with life, as visitors marveled at marvels like the first ice cream cone, motorized vehicles, and displays from distant lands. For Thomas Parker, a young photographer, it was the opportunity of a lifetime. Thomas had always been drawn to capturing moments that others might overlook, the way light filtered through the trees in the early morning, the fleeting smile of a passerby, or the expressions of children lost in wonder. The fair was his playground, a place brimming with stories waiting to be told through his lens. With his well-worn camera slung over his shoulder and his brown tweed suit slightly rumpled from long days on his feet, Thomas was constantly on the move, searching for the next perfect shot. It was on one of those long days, while photographing a bustling section of the fairgrounds, that Thomas first saw her. Amidst the throngs of people, there she was, standing behind a booth filled with sweets. Clara Whitman's laughter rang out as she served a delighted customer a cone piled high with freshly made ice cream. Her chestnut hair, loosely pinned back, caught the sunlight, giving her a halo-like glow. Her hazel eyes sparkled with warmth and mischief as she chatted with patrons, her pastel blue dress swaying with her movements, the white apron around her waist speckled with flour and sugar. Thomas raised his camera, unable to resist capturing the moment. Through the lens, he focused on her. The way she smiled, the way her hands moved gracefully as she handed the cone to a small child. Just as he was about to press the shutter, she turned her gaze directly at him, catching him off guard. "Taking pictures without permission, are we?" she called out, raising an eyebrow in mock disapproval. Thomas froze, lowering his camera, with a sheepish grin. "I apologize, miss. It's just that you looked so genuine. I couldn't resist." Clara wiped her hands on her apron and walked around the counter, approaching him with an amused smile. "Genuine, huh? Is that what you tell all the girls you secretly photograph?" Thomas chuckled. "Only the ones who look like they belong in the picture." She tilted her head, studying him for a moment before extending her hand. "Clara Whitman. My father runs the confectionery stall, but I think I might be doing most of the work today." "Thomas Parker," he said, shaking her hand. "Freelance photographer and guilty as charged when it comes to capturing moments I find interesting." "Well, Mr. Parker, if you're going to keep snapping pictures of me, the least you could do is let me see them." Thomas grinned. "Deal. But only if you agree to let me take more photos. You have a way with people, your customers adore you, and it shows. That's worth capturing." Clara's eyes twinkled with playful curiosity. "All right, Mr. Parker, you've got yourself a bargain. But in return, you have to promise to visit my father's stand and try our famous ice cream. It's the best in the fair, if I do say so myself." "Consider it a deal," Thomas replied. Over the next few days, Thomas found himself returning to Clara's booth more often than he intended. It wasn't just the photography that drew him, it was Clara herself. There was something refreshingly honest about her, a kindness and wit that made their conversations flow effortlessly. As he snapped photos of her interacting with customers, they'd exchange banter, jokes, and small confidences that grew more personal with each passing day. One afternoon, while taking a break from his work, Thomas lingered by the booth, savoring a cone of Clara's ice cream. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the fairgrounds, and the lights of the exhibits started to twinkle. "Have you heard the latest gossip?" Clara asked, her voice tinged with curiosity as she leaned closer to him. Thomas raised an eyebrow. "Gossip? You don't strike me as the kind to indulge in that." "Normally, no," she admitted, her expression turning more serious. "But this is different. There's talk of a scandal involving a couple who were supposedly caught in a stolen kiss in one of the more secluded exhibits." A stolen kiss? Thomas repeated, intrigued. Sounds like something out of a novel. Clara nodded. Exactly. The story goes that this couple, whoever they are connected to someone important, and now the rumors are spreading. People are trying to figure out who they are. There's even talk of blackmail. Thomas's interest was piqued. And why are you telling me this? Because, Clara said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, I saw them. Thomas blinked in surprise. You saw them? You saw who they were. She bit her lip, glancing around before continuing. I didn't see their faces clearly, but I was delivering some pastries to one of the exhibits near the garden pavilion when I caught a glimpse of them. They were definitely trying to be discreet. The woman wore a distinctive hat, a red one with a feather. The man was dressed in a dark suit, but he kept his back to me. Why didn't you mention this earlier? Thomas asked, leaning in closer. I wasn't sure if it was something I should get involved in, Clara said, her eyes wide. But then the rumors started spreading, and now I'm wondering if it's the same couple. If it is, they might be in trouble. Thomas's mind raced with possibilities. The scandal could be a perfect story, one that could elevate his work from mere snapshots to something more investigative. And if Clara had indeed seen the couple, he might be able to help piece together what happened. Do you think you could retrace your steps and show me exactly where you saw them? Thomas asked. Clara hesitated. I don't want to cause any trouble, Thomas. What if we stir up something that's better left alone? Thomas placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. We don't have to stir up anything. But if there's a truth to be uncovered, maybe it's better we find it out than let rumors run wild. She considered this for a moment, then nodded. All right, I'll show you. But only because I trust you. As the evening wore on and the crowds thinned, they made their way to the spot Clara had mentioned, a secluded pathway lined with trees near the garden pavilion. The air was cool, and the sounds of distant laughter and music provided a gentle backdrop. It was here, Clara said, pointing to a small alcove framed by ivy-covered walls. They were standing right there, whispering to each other before they realized I was nearby. Thomas surveyed the area, his mind ticking over the possibilities. If they were here, they must have thought this was a hidden spot. But it's too close to the main path for them to stay unnoticed for long. Exactly, Clara agreed. That's why I think they were trying to be quick. But the woman's hat caught my attention, and I couldn't help but look. Thomas's instincts as a photographer kicked in. That hat, if it's as unique as you describe, it's bound to be noticed by someone else. We need to ask around, discreetly, and see if anyone else has seen a woman wearing it. The days that followed were a whirlwind of investigation. Thomas and Clara worked together, blending their efforts with his photography work and her responsibilities at the confectionery stand. They visited different parts of the fairgrounds, subtly asking questions, making observations, and piecing together clues. The mystery of the stolen kiss became more than just idle gossip. It became a puzzle they were determined to solve. Their partnership grew closer with each passing day. They discovered shared dreams, Thomas's desire to capture the world's stories through his lens and Clara's wish to one day open her own confectionery shop, expanding beyond her father's business. They laughed together, teased each other, and found comfort in their shared purpose. One evening, as they stood by a fountain illuminated by twinkling lights, Thomas couldn't help but feel how much Clara had come to mean to him. Her warmth, her intelligence, and her ability to make even the most mundane moments feel special had become a constant presence in his thoughts. Clara, he said softly, turning to face her. I don't know where this investigation will lead, but I do know that meeting you has been the best part of this fair for me. Clara's eyes met his, her expression softening. I feel the same way, Thomas. I've never met anyone who sees the world the way you do. You make me feel like even the smallest things matter. Their gazes held, the air between them charged with unspoken emotions. Slowly, almost hesitantly, Thomas reached out and took her hand. Clara didn't pull away. Instead, she stepped closer, her heart racing as she looked up at him. But before either of them could act on the moment, a figure hurried past them, a woman in a red hat, the very same one Clara had described. "It's her," Clara whispered urgently, her hand tightening around Thomas's. "The woman from the scandal." Without thinking, they followed the woman, keeping a safe distance as she made her way through the dimly lit pathways. She eventually stopped near a shadowy corner of the fairgrounds, where a man in a dark suit was waiting. They spoke in hushed tones, the tension between them palpable even from afar. Thomas quickly raised his camera, adjusting the settings for the low light, and snapped a few shots. The sound of the shutter seemed to echo in the stillness, causing the couple to turn sharply in their direction. Realizing they had been spotted, Clara and Thomas quickly ducked behind a nearby booth, holding their breath as the couple scanned the area. After a tense moment, the couple turned and hurried away, disappearing into the night. "That was close," Clara said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Did you get the photos?" Thomas nodded, his heart still racing. "I did, but we need to be careful. Whoever they are, they're clearly hiding something, and we don't know what they're capable of." As they made their way back to the main fairgrounds, the weight of what they had just witnessed settled over them. The playful nature of their investigation had given way to something more serious, a realization that they might be uncovering secrets that others were desperate to keep hidden. Back at the photo development tent, Thomas processed the images, and there they were, the woman's distinctive hat, the man's anxious expression, and the tension between them captured in stark black and white. It was clear these were not just innocent lovers caught in a moment of passion. There was something more at play. "I think we need to show these to someone in authority," Clara suggested, her brow furrowed with concern. "What if this is bigger than just a scandal? What if they're involved in something criminal?" Thomas agreed. The fair had drawn not only visitors, but also people with questionable intentions, con artists, spies, and those looking to exploit the event for their own gain. The more they delved into the mystery, the more they realized they were in over their heads. The next day, they discreetly handed the photos to a security official at the fair, explaining what they had seen. The official thanked them for the information and assured them that the matter would be investigated, but also cautioned them to stay out of further trouble. As the fair's closing days approached, Clara and Thomas found themselves reflecting on the whirlwind of events that had brought them together. They had uncovered a mystery, forged a bond, and discovered that life could be more exciting and unpredictable than either of them had imagined. On the final night of the fair, they stood once again by the illuminated fountain, the air filled with the sounds of laughter, music, and the distant hum of rides. The world around them seemed to fade as they looked at each other, knowing that their time together had been extraordinary in ways neither could fully describe. "I'll miss this," Clara said softly, her eyes glistening with emotion. "I'll miss the adventure, and I'll miss you." "You don't have to miss me," Thomas replied, his voice gentle as he stepped closer. "The fair might be ending, but this doesn't have to. I want to be a part of your life, Clara, beyond all of this." She smiled, her heart swelling with hope. "I want that too, Thomas." And with that, he leaned in, capturing the moment they had both been waiting for. Their kiss was tender, filled with the promise of new beginnings and the realization that, sometimes, the most unexpected encounters lead to the greatest joys. As the lights of the fair flickered one last time and the crowds began to disperse, Clara and Thomas knew that their story was only just beginning. The stolen kiss that had sparked their adventure had led them to something far more precious, a love that would endure long after the World's Fair faded into memory.